Hi, it's James from Pro Tools Expert back down in the studio, and thank you so much for all your comments regarding Russ and I's last video on the UA Thunderbolt Apollo. What I'd like to do is just take a couple of minutes just to show you some of the changes we've made with regard to your comments and how we still think it holds up pretty well. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of the setup changes that you guys have suggested, and we'll have a look at how that affects the outcome. So you can see here the playback engine setup we're using on the Apollo, and it's also worth noting this is exactly the same setup as we used when we tested the Avid Thunderbolt I/O. The only thing that will have changed from that particular video regard to this machine is the actual version of Pro Tools. I think Pro Tools has done about 2 updates since then. However, what we're going to do is change some things on here to try and make it what we hope will be a more fair, more impressive test. So first thing, we'll turn off ignore errors, and we'll also remove the disk cache. Now, it's my understanding that disk cache has very little to do with actual recording, it's more to do with playback. It dumps what's currently in the timeline into cache. But as the recording information isn't in the timeline, it's not going into the timeline cache, it's going straight to the drive. However, let's try it and see what happens. Delay compensation's on, so that should hopefully help us out. And I'm going to leave my sample buffer size down at 32 samples, and my CPU and processor as they were 7 and 99. That's the standard settings that Pro Tools Expert, or mainly Mike, approves. So the first part of the test is going to be to play back the 16 recorded tracks that we actually made, the drums, 2 guitars and bass. So you can see there the CPU meter is dancing around about 19, maybe up to about 50% there. So what we'll now do is we'll enable some of these recorded tracks and see what happens. We'll do it a few at a time. I'm not going to jump in right away with 128 tracks. So let's see what happens when we start to record, enable and record some tracks. So we've now got another 32 tracks enabled, and let's just hit record and see what happens. So that's 32 tracks alongside our current 16. So that's 32 on top of our 24, and no sweat going on there with the CPU. And remember, this is with disk cache disabled. So what we now need to do is let rip on all those audio tracks and see what happens. So as I scroll down this session, you can see that I have my full 128 audio tracks record enabled. And if I hit record, let's see what happens. So you can see as I scroll down, it's recording. Okay, it's not recording any audio because we have nothing plugged into it. But you can see it's happily recording. Yes, the disk meter has jumped up to about 53% average, maybe jumping to about 70. But the CPU on the Mac is staying pretty stable, about 20% on the sort of measured numbers. So hopefully that proves fairly conclusively that the UA Apollo Thunderbolt is doing exactly what it says on the tin. I really can't fault this thing. It sounds great, looks great, very small form factor, and hopefully when they update the firmware so you can hook 2 of them together to increase your input count, we'll be able to get them out again and see if we can break it again. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.